All right, hello Canada and baseball fans in the United States, Newfoundland, of course, Montana, Trinidad and Tobago, Siam, wherever you're listening. We appreciate it. This is episode 11 of Bat Flips and Maple Dips. The kids are all right. So that is the theme of today's episode. We are going to be talking about the youth movement of the Jays. We are going to be recapping the week that was. We're going to be talking about who's hot, who's not on the Jays. We're also going to be talking about our favorite and least favorite players of all time. Cannot wait to talk about Cement Head. If you listen to the podcast a bunch, you know exactly who I'm talking about. To my left here in Saskatoon, we have the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Justin Anderson. How's it going, bud?
It's going wonderful as always.
And the Maritime Mistress Maker, as always, joining us on Skype via Halifax. We have Patrick Marsh. How's it going?
Man, it's going great.
My name is Clayton Croker, and before we dive into some baseball stuff, let's talk about some CFL.
Yeah.
For you folks listening in Trinidad and Tobago, you might not know what the CFL is. It's our Canadian Football League. Duron Carter, released by the Riders. Here in Saskatchewan,
It's a huge deal.
it was the only thing people were talking about. It's a huge, huge deal because Duron Carter was the best player. He was put on defense and back on offense. Now he's not even playing for them anymore. Patrick, is it a big deal out in the Maritimes?
Well, I mean, the CFL is starting to gain some hype out here, but in general, no, it's not. I just put it in because you guys are obviously in Saskatchewan, and he must have been your boy to some extent.
Here's the thing. I am a Winnipeg Blue Bomber fan living in Saskatchewan.
Oh, my God.
It's a fucking nightmare, man.
He's enemy territory.
Hate it. I absolutely hate it.
Can't wait for
And
Labor Day.
on my radio show, I have to pretend to be a Rider fan because we broadcast the Rider games. Like 96.3 Cruise FM is the home of the Saskatchewan Roughriders.
Yeah.
So every morning I have to be like, oh, yeah, go Raiders. Yeah.
Does a little bit of you die just every time?
Every single morning,
I love it.
I am just...
Every time you say something about like, yeah, go Riders, I'm just like, oh.
And I have to pretend to like Chris Jones.
He
It's
sounds
like,
so enthusiastic.
It's
every
not,
time.
though. Justin, you're the resident Rider guy.
Yeah,
Why did
I love
Duron
it.
get released?
So, the rumor on the street, there are a bunch of them. The one that has the most credibility to me is that Duron Carter was a quote-unquote cancer in the clubhouse, in the locker room. There's been some rumblings that offensive coaches did not want him there anymore, just based on personality clashing with the rest of the personnel. That one makes sense to me because, I mean, Duron's very outspoken,
Just
to
a
say
bit.
the least. I would use the word cocky in a descriptive term for him. And a lot of times, rightly so. He's a great athlete. He was the best player on our team. I think he was rated like top 8 in CFL's top 50 players going into the season. And he was our most outstanding player nominee last year. The funny rumor for me that I heard this weekend was because the Riders run a bye week, and it's like Chris Jones had to do something because he just doesn't want to be under the spotlight for 2 weeks.
That is very true.
So he just was like, "Oh, I'm just going to release Duron Carter and get myself back in the spotlight and back on the news."
A lot of news going on in the CFL that's not Rider related. We need to change that right now. Yeah.
So,
Chris Jones, I'm a good guy. Yeah. Our Chris Jones impressions need some work. I think it was because after the game in Calgary, he said, "You know what? You need to give me the ball more.
The ball more, yeah.
You don't do that if you're a receiver.
No,
that is rule number 1. You can never complain about not getting the ball. Exactly. You have to earn it, and you just have to take advantage of your opportunity when you do get the ball. So, Duron, have fun in Montreal, bud, because that's where you're going.
Sounds like he's going back to Montreal.
Well, it's a dumpster fire of a team. Again, I love Johnny Manziel. I do. But the rest of the Alouettes,
yeah.
so
He's hurt too.
bad.
I think he didn't practice today.
He'll be fine. He's Johnny Football. I, for one, like Johnny Football, but that might just be me. What about you, Patrick? Are you a big Johnny Football guy?
Oh, God, no.
See, I like college football. Like, I love watching college football.
I could not care less.
Before this podcast, I was actually playing College Football 14 on my PlayStation 3. I still have it, and I just loved watching Johnny Manziel play for Texas A&M. But
sure, well, everyone has a thing.
I get it. Go Spartans.
Go Spartans. Gross. Any team that Nick Saban has coached, I have no respect for.
Man, we're gonna do a college football special sometime later in the year.
Not right now.
It'll just be like a 20-minute episode where we just scream about how great and Nick Saban is or
Roll
how much
Tide.
you hate Nick Saban.
Nick Saban is just the worst. Like
Roll
what he did to the
Tide.
Miami Dolphins is just.
Oh yeah, that was bad.
It'll be for another day because we got to focus on baseball here. Let's get to baseball.
I believe I called the 2 wins last week in our predictions, so I'm gonna throw that out there right now.
Man, we suck.
We are not good.
There were a couple players that actually had a pretty good week. Justin Smoke hit 333, 1 home run, 4 RBIs, and he had 4 walks, which, I mean, Justin Smoke, not known for taking walks, but
we'll
his
take
eye
him
was
this
looking
year.
pretty good.
Yeah.
Luke Maley batting 300.
Only 10 at bats.
Exactly, so that's the thing. You got to take that
Backup
with a
catcher.
grain of salt. Devin Travis, he had 2 home runs and 5 RBIs. He was looking like the old Devin Travis. Those are the 3 guys who had a pretty good week. Out of all of them, who would you say performed the best in your eyes? Let's start with Patrick.
Honestly, Justin Smoke Daddy is back. Smoke Daddy is killing it at the plate right now, and I love it. He's finally, concentrating on making solid, hard contact, getting those extra base hits, and he's also starting to show off the fact that he's got a good eye for being able to lay off bad junk that he's getting thrown. Unfortunately, this resurgence is about, 3 months too late. But still, he's playing his way into getting an extra little bit of cash, isn't he, Justin?
Yeah, he's actually passed the threshold on his option for 1,100 at bats, and now he's worth $8 million next year.
Oh,
if we
wow.
pick up his option, which we'd be honestly crazy not to, because we have nobody to play first base.
Like, no young people are playing first base. That's the one
no,
position
no one
we
who's
don't have
ready.
depth in.
No
Yeah.
one who's ready yet.
That's
We
true.
have a couple of guys who are down there, but they're in below.
Spanberger.
Yeah, they're below AA still. So
And we don't want to move Vladdy to first base when he's this young. We're going to get as many years at third base as we can from
Yeah.
him before maybe we have to move him to first
it'll be a
base just because
three
he's
4
out of
year
shape.
thing, I think, for Vladdy. If he's unable to stick at third, it'll probably be 4 years. I'd say is probably the time they give him.
So what about people not on that list? Did anyone jump out at you this past week other than Smoke, Maley, and Travis? Or
No, and Russell Martin hit 250 this week. We should throw that out there.
good for him.
He's got the average. It's down to 199 after last night, but it was at 201 at one point. So he's kind of been flirting with that Mendoza line.
Playing third base too?
Yeah, playing third base. He's supposed to be playing tonight. Looks like they're going to get rain in Kansas City for a while. Whether or not they actually play tonight might be a late game.
So let's talk about the guys who weren't so hot, a.k.a. not, which is why we call it Who's Hot and Who's Not. Kendrys Morales, the opposite of Suns Out, Guns Out
My
Kendrys.
God, I don't know what's going on
He
with
went
him.
2 for 21 this past week. Kevin Pillar, again, not known for his bats. He bat 174. Gritch Daddy, not the worst, but not the greatest.
Yeah.
He did have 2 home runs
His
and 7
average
RBIs.
wasn't great, but he's striking out too much.
Strike out like 10 times,
So
man.
I just want to point out a common theme in all these guys' names. Kendrys, Kevin, Grichuk. You can't spell any of those without a K.
Ha, but
Hey.
out of all these guys, and once again, we'll start with Patrick, who had the worst week?
Oh, it's Kendrys Morales. It's not even close. I have to say, though, I have a bit of a bone to pick with Gritch Daddy being on the Who's Not list.
I think so,
I didn't
too.
make-
The
I didn't make
strikeouts,
this
the
list,
strikeouts
but
put him
damn
there
it,
for me.
Justin. Gritch Daddy had
Strikeouts.
2 home runs and 7
Yeah,
RBIs.
2 home runs
You
don't mean
really,
anything when you
we really
strike out
gonna
10
knock him
times.
because he's a power hitter who got 10 Ks?
Yeah.
I'm
mean,
going to knock him.
Why are we picking on Teoscar Hernandez?
His average is a little bit higher.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah, very
207?
slightly.
And he walked, and I believe Tio walked 4 times this week compared to
He
Grichuk's
did.
1. So, I mean,
He hit 2 bombs as well.
yeah, and he had 11 strikeouts but 4 walks. So for me, the 4 walks and a bit of a higher average put him in my good graces this week.
No one likes walks. Come on.
Hey, can he
And
get on
for-
base?
And for Randall Grichuk hitting 207 from where he was earlier in the year,
Yeah.
I'll take that.
I won't.
I will. He was batting like, what, 095? Like to start the season or something
Yeah, it
like
was
that?
It was pretty low.
So the fact that he hits 207 any week, I mean, that's good in my books. Just like the hot list, is there any player that's not on the not list that you think should be on there?
No.
The entire bullpen.
Yeah, wow.
You stole my joke, Patrick. Damn it.
I'm sorry, I didn't know. You weren't here for prep.
I'm never here for prep. I just go with it.
You walk in and own it.
Well, with broadcasting, there needs to be the two, experts, and then the James Duthie, as I like to call them. I am the James Duthie of the equation. I just ask you guys questions. You guys go off on your stats.
Out here.
Oh, man.
And I'll throw in my couple of jokes and jabs when I can.
Just back to Kendrys Morales for a minute, too. I mean, the last 15 games, he's only batting 161. We saw him, after May 1st, he was on a bit of a tear. Through July, through the middle of July, he was hitting 301 since May 1st. But the last 30 days, he's hitting 262, and his slugging has dropped quite a bit. He's only got 5 dingers in the last 30 days, and for your DH, that's not enough.
He's got to go suns out, guns out again.
What they need to do, I saw this on the subreddit. They said the reason that Kendrys Morales was playing well is because they pitched him that one inning. So we need to pitch him an inning again. He'll be fine. It'll sort him out.
That'll reset the counter for how long he plays well before he goes into the shits.
Yeah.
Something's going on with him in that he has a ridiculous number of strikeouts in August. It's only August 14th right now. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 strikeouts in 11 games. Calm down, Kendrys.
That's less than a strikeout per game.
Yeah, that's still bad.
Really bad.
What are his walk totals this month, Patrick? While you're looking.
I'm a big fan of walks. He's got a grand total of 2 walks in that period.
Hey.
Gross.
So
4-1. That's not
that don't impress me much.
Shania Twain reference on the podcast today.
I didn't notice this, but Kendrys' swing. I remember watching him in Kansas City, thinking man, that's a crisp swing. It's really, really fluid. Something happened to his swing when he moved to Toronto because it doesn't look the same.
He adopted the Russell Martin paper bag.
Because I remember watching him in KC being man, that's a good swing. It's a sexy looking swing. And in Toronto, he just doesn't have it. He's whiffing at everything.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's his eyesight or if it's an injury or something like that, but man, it's unfortunate we did not get Kendrys of 4 years ago, and instead we have this Kendrys.
It is what it is.
Let's dive into
35 years old.
Very true.
I mean, he's getting up there in age, and he's lost the swing, the speed in his swing. If you see it, he's just behind every fastball.
Yeah.
It's just so frustrating because he's obviously a likable player. He's likable anywhere that he's gone. When he went to bat for his first at-bat yesterday in the game against Kansas City, he actually got a halfway standing ovation.
Yeah.
People were so happy to see him back in town.
He won the World Series there, did he not?
Yeah, he would have been there for that, I believe.
He was there for the Royals.
Yeah,
thing.
was
Okay,
2016
good.
when they won that? Yeah.
And he was a pretty big part of that team, too. So
he definitely was, yeah.
Good for him getting the standing O there.
Yeah, that's cool.
Let's dive deeper to the Boston series because, we all knew we were going to lose to Boston. They're the best team in the league. Marcus Stroman, though, in that 10-7 loss, 7 innings, 2 hits, 3 walks, 4 strikeouts. Again, classic bullpen. They kind of ruined it for him.
It's crazy how many runs got scored at the end of that game. Ugh.
But Marcus Stroman pitching that kind of game against Boston. I mean, normally that's a really, really good game, but when it's against the best hitting team, not just right now, but maybe of all time when you look at the Red Sox lineup.
It's unbelievable, yeah.
That's got to be a positive sign for Marcus Stroman, right?
For sure. Yeah. No, I mean, anytime you can go 7 innings and give up 1 run on 2 hits to the league's best offense, you're doing pretty good.
Is Marcus in your good books now, Patrick, or are you still a little on the fence about him?
Yeah, here's the problem, though, with Marcus. He had 2 very good performances in the last week or the last time that we sat down to record. He had the 7-inning performance, and then we're going to talk about him again later in the game, the squeaker that the Jays managed to get against Tampa. But both of them, quality starts. He did exactly what he needed to do. He scattered hits. He limited the amount of times he let anybody get on base. I think he still gave up 3 walks against Boston, but he deserves a lot more credit than what he's getting. His record is so deceptive.
Yeah, and I mean, excuse me. Even the second game, he's dealing with a bit of a blister issue right now, and he still managed to go 5 innings and only give up 1 run to the Rays. So his strikeout totals were low this week because he wasn't really able to use his sinker to its full potential just because it was hurting when he threw it. But even so, he managed to use the rest of his arsenal in whatever way he could to get batters out, and you got to respect that about a guy who's willing to fight through that.
A Blue Jays pitcher dealing with blisters, classic. Ken Giles didn't look great for the Jays in that game. He's looked pretty mediocre since we got him. I mean, he chucks gas, but that's basically all he can do. Would you say we have lost this trade already?
It's too early to say that, especially since Giles is the only major leaguer we got in that trade. We still have the 2 minor league pitchers that we got back in that deal as well. That trade's going to be a couple of years before we can say, like, yeah, this team won. And we don't know what's going to happen with Osuna's court case yet. It's still ongoing. So, I mean, there could be a outcome where he's not pitching in the big leagues in 2 years if there's some sort of ramifications that come out of this that allow him to or don't allow him to keep pitching. So it's kind of a matter of time thing. Giles looked shaky in that game. He's looked decent a couple of other times. There's that weird stat we talked about it one morning in the office of him in non-save situations. He's just abysmal. And then when he's in save situations, he's lights out. And he was lights out in one save situation this week where he did get the save. So in that 2-1 game that Stroman started. So there's some interesting stats there with Giles and save opportunities. So.
Patrick, do you agree? Would you say we haven't lost this trade yet?
I would say point blank, no matter what Osuna does the rest of his career, we won the trade because we got rid of a player who is absolutely mired in legal problems, and it's too much of a hassle to have to deal with that, especially in a young team trying to rebuild. I'm not saying that Osuna would have been a negative influence, but I guess I am kind of saying that without saying it. I'm much happier that he is not on the team now because of what he seems to be continuously getting involved in off the diamond. But that being said, I don't think Ken Giles is going to be our future reliever. I think we have yet to find the right closer to fill in that gap. It might not be internal. We might end up having to get somebody during the off season because Ken Giles just seems a little too high on the crazy meter.
Ken Giles is Drew Storen 2.0.
Yeah, except he throws harder.
Like the opposite of 2.0. Like 2.0 usually means better.
Oh, better, yeah.
I would say Ken Giles is like Drew Storen, I guess, negative 2.0 then.
Version 1.1.
At least Drew Storen had like flashes where he was okay. Ken Giles, again, he had that one. It's too early to tell. Let's just
on Patrick's note there with the closer situation. To be honest, we're probably 2 or 3 years away from needing a good closer because we're not going to be in the playoffs the next couple of years anyway. So we have some time to kind of sort out if there's anybody internally, and then 2 or 3 years down the line when we actually need somebody like a Craig Kimbrell or somebody like that of that caliber, we can go out and buy them, kind of thing.
All right, let's talk about Housechild here because again, 2.1 innings pitched. He got his tits lit. I mean, let's just tell it how it is here.
He was the real Mike Housechild.
We called that on the podcast last week. We're like, there's no way this guy can keep it up. After seeing his really, really good start and his really, really bad start, what would you say is his future with the Jays, Patrick?
There isn't one.
He's in Buffalo now.
He got lit up real bad. I know it's Boston, and this Boston team is probably going to go down in history unless they shit the bed in the playoffs. But maybe that's wishful thinking. I'm not sure. Hochschild, I got on the hype train real quick when he had that great start, and I would say I was the first one off as soon as this game, that game there, the 10-5 loss was like 2 innings in. I was like, I'm out.
Well, there were some of us who I don't think Clayton and I ever got on the train.
No,
we were firmly on the platform.
Yeah, it was just kind of like, okay, this guy.
Sayonara, Patrick.
Yeah, adrenaline really took over for that first start, I think, and he was like, okay, it's my first start, let's kill it, and it's all downhill from there.
Yeah, he's in Buffalo now. Good luck.
I know. I don't want to talk about Joe Biagini again, so we're not gonna. But Grichuk, Smoke, Teoscar, again, they all hit the ball hard that game. Well, Teoscar hit it hard once because he struck out 3 times, but. It's got to be a good sign seeing Grich and Smoke at least make contact with the ball. I know they're striking out a bunch, but the fact they're making contact is a good sign. But with Teoscar, and him not really making contact a bunch. Do you think that is worrisome for the Jays, especially considering the fact that, like, he does look like a future DH out there?
I have such a hard time evaluating our team this year because the lineup is just so weak. Outside of Smoke, Teoscar, occasionally Kendris, and Randall Grichuk, Devin Travis is probably our other best power hitter if you add in that category.
That's sad.
Outside of Justin Smoke and Teoscar Hernandez, we don't really have like a guy who's just like, yeah, this guy hits for power.
Would you rather, though, here's a would you rather here. Would you rather have a DH who hits for great contact, or would you rather have a DH who strikes out a lot but hits dingers?
Home runs all day.
So you'd rather have a DH like that? See, I'm the opposite. I would rather have a DH that gets on base a lot and is a good contact hitter. I know, obviously, you want both, a contact and power hitter, but I would want a guy who can hit for contact and occasionally pop a dinger when you need to. I don't think Teoscar can be a DH if he's going to be getting 1, 2, 3 strikeouts a game.
Yeah, the problem we have with our current DH in Kendris is that he's not hitting enough home runs.
Yeah.
Right? And I mean, and we complain about that all the time. And he's also striking out a ton.
Mm-hmm.
So at least with Teoscar, you're getting the home runs. And I think for him, once Kendris Morales' contract is gone after next year, we might see some internal pressure in the outfield to move Teoscar to DH, or maybe he sticks in the outfield and improves his defense over the next year and a half. Unlikely, in my opinion. But I do see him as a DH. And I mean, this is his first full big league season.
True, very true.
He's already set career highs in home runs and I believe RBIs, and not that those really matter in terms of career high numbers, but his power numbers are there.
Mm-hmm.
The strikeouts they do need to come down, and the walks need to come up. But I think if you have a Josh Donaldson in the lineup the whole season hitting near Teoscar Hernandez, just think of the year we had Donaldson, Bautista, and Edwin all hit like 30 plus home runs, and driving 100 each. Like that was a great year because they had security in the lineup. Right now it's Smoke and Teoscar kind of on their own island. And that's about it.
I think it should be, if Teoscar is going to keep striking out the way he is, his power numbers need to come way up.
Agreed.
I don't care if he hits like 45 home runs a year, then sure, strike out all you want, but at the same time, he's not going to be a kind of guy that's going to hit 45 home runs in a year.
He's never going to hit higher than 260.
Exactly.
He might hit he's probably a 250 average hitter.
So that's why I'd rather see him limit the strikeouts and hit for contact as opposed to go for 45, 50 home runs, because I just don't think he has that in him. I don't know. Do you think he has the 45 home run, 50 home run number in him, Patrick, or no?
Do you guys remember that Stan Bush song, The Touch? You remember? You got the touch. You got the power. You guys remember that? That's what Teoscar has. He's got the power.
The power.
I want to see him come out, and I want to see him hit dingers. And I think he has it in him to hit probably 30s, high 30s. As far as number of home runs a season. And honestly, he's not going to be any worse than Kendris Morales is right now for us. So I think this is more of a Teoscar's trying to figure out what works for him at the plate.
Right.
He's going to strike out a lot. This is his first full year in the bigs. Just let him swing wild. And once we have a competent hitting coach, we'll be able to kind of finesse the swing or die mentality.
Every week I wait for Patrick to say either competent pitching or hitting coach. It happens almost every podcast, and I always wait for it. It's great.
Almost every podcast. It does happen.
and I think that's a topic for maybe a future show. We could talk about whether or not any of the coaching staff will be back next year.
Spoiler alert, they will not.
I doubt it.
Let's talk about the feel-good win we got against them. Last game of the series, 8-5. Again, Teoscar, Grichuk, Travis, Smoke. They all had really, really good games, but they all had a real good series, and we've been talking about them a bunch.
Yeah.
Again, we talked about Smoke's contract, but let's talk about Ryan Borucki here, because he didn't look great against the Sox.
But who does?
But it's the Red Sox. That's the thing. No one looks good about them. He's still got the win, though.
He did.
How do you think Ryan Borucki is feeling after pitching 3 awesome games and not picking up the win, and then in his worst start, he gets the win? Do you think he's kind of ticked off about that, or no?
I don't think so. He's probably happy that the offense showed up and helped him out.
Mm-hmm. I would be mad if I was that pitcher, though. Really, that's the game I got my first major league win on.
Wasn't his first win against Seattle?
It was.
The 8 innings.
This was number 2. He's
Right.
2-2 now.
Never mind. You guys are right.
So-
Well, for a second win.
Yeah, but I mean, this is why I hate the win-loss stat, because I mean, you can pitch not. Say you're a guy who gives up 7 runs, but your team wins 10-7. You get the win, but does that win really feel like you won? Not really.
That's true.
It's an outdated stat for old white men who don't know anything about metrics.
We're old white men.
Wow.
Well, I'm 25. You guys can speak for yourself. I'm the young buck in the crew.
The bullpen looked okay. Do we want to talk about the bullpen and their one good performance ever this year?
Yay, bullpen! You did something.
Good for
Moving
you guys. Let's talk about the Tampa series here. Just really quick off the bat, Patrick, what did you think about us in that series against Tampa Bay? Because, I mean, we had the blowout loss. We had a couple close games. What did you think of the Jays overall in this series?
The bats just completely evaporated.
Yeah.
There was nobody hitting during that series. I don't know if that means that Tampa is just that good pitching, or it's just all that energy that was exerted during the Boston series. Because remember, we lost games 10-7,
Yeah.
10-5, and then we got an 8-5 win. We were smacking the crap out of the ball in that series, and then it all just kind of dried up. We had nothing to show for it. And then Blake Snell happened, and, well, we took a 2-1 series loss to Tampa. And by the way, guys, I can't believe you just no-sold my Stan Bush reference. Come on.
I don't. That's before my time, Patrick.
Clayton, are you a child of the 80s as well?
No. Is Stan Bush Dave Bush's dad or something like that? Like,
No, that was a song that was featured on the 1986 Transformers cartoon movie. How, like... am I really showing my age
You
here?
are,
Like, I'm
Patrick.
not that old.
keep digging your hole, man.
Yeah, by all
We'll
means.
sit here in silence and let you go off on all of these obscure 80s references.
What is 1986?
Do you want to talk
Yeah.
about 16 Candles for a bit here, too? Or
Oh, man, I could talk about John Hughes all day, but
Yeah, John Hughes
I'd
is
rather
great.
just move on. Let's talk
Can we
about
talk about Blake Snell for a minute?
Blake Snell, yeah. And
So Blake Snell is
either way, let's talk about a good pitcher for once.
Mhm.
yeah. So I think Blake Snell was it might have been his second start back from off the DL. He was on a pitch count. He was throwing a perfect game through 5 innings, and they had to pull him because of pitch count.
I think that's a good call for Tampa because he's literally all they have left.
Yeah,
And you can't risk a perfect game even. Like,
it's crazy. I know. I'm just saying, like, it's crazy that hey, it's like this guy just came back off the DL and he's throwing a perfect game
Yeah,
through
he's gonna
5
be
against
good.
a team who just put up like 20 runs in the series. I don't know if our guys maybe thought they were playing at the Trop this series and they just decided not to show up like they always do in Tampa.
I think that must have been the case because even though our bats were really bad, our pitching that first game wasn't great
The
either.
pitching wasn't bad the rest of the series. Yeah, the first game,
Marco.
Estrada had a terrible outing.
I think that's it for him, hey?
Yeah.
Any hope of him having like maybe
a trade?
a good second half or maybe a trade or something
I
like
think
that?
that's gone.
I think that's gone. I mean, do you put Marco out there at all for the end of the year?
You'll pass him through. Oh, we'll keep pitching him because we just need somebody to eat some innings for us. And he can throw 5-6 innings and just get hit around. And we don't really care at this point. We're not bringing him back. Oh, God, I just can't believe we lost on the bullpen day. I hate losing to teams who use bullpen days.
That's okay. I mean, our team is an absolute garbage fire right now.
Yeah, we can talk about Gaviglio in that game too.
Yeah.
He's not doing anything in the rotation ever. Yeah.
No, this is it. This is it for Estrada. I don't think he comes back as a starter anywhere in the league unless somebody like, I don't know, San Diego is like
Cincinnati.
desperate for an innings eater next year or something like that. That's not me throwing shade at San Diego. They're bad, but, you know, if he's going to pitch somewhere next year, it's going to be somewhere bad.
San Diego.
That is like
somewhere
yeah,
small
like
market.
San Diego.
Yeah.
And that's where careers go to die.
Yeah.
Like San Diego.
San Diego.
Look up Josh Johnson right there. Again, the bats they weren't there, but on the plus side, Russell Martin, he did get to 201 on the year.
For a brief day.
Good for him.
One day,
mean,
Russ, you did it.
hey, he still made it, okay? And we said we would celebrate if he ever got back
Should we
to
do a slow
200.
clap for Russ?
So hey, let's do a slow clap for Russ. Good for you, bud. You did it. He did it for a day. Proud of you. Stroman in that 2-1 win for the Jays. Again, 5 innings pitched, 5 hits, 1 earned run, 2 strikeouts. The strikeouts weren't really there for him, but
Just the blister again.
they
yeah.
weren't hitting the ball hard on Stroman. And earlier in the year,
Ground
he
balls,
was
baby.
getting ripped. Like he was
Yeah.
man, were people hitting him hard. I mean, he may have been getting outs early on, but they were taking him deep. It seems like he's kind of figured out to keep the ball lower now.
It seemed like early in the year, Stroman was either keeping the ball on the ground or letting the ball leave the park, and now he's been more so keeping the ball on the ground. Like it's since he's been back off the DL, his ground ball percentage hasn't changed because it was still high before, but everything else that he gives up is softer loopers and lazy fly balls now. So I mean, great sign moving forward. Hopefully this blister thing like just screws off, because I don't want to lose another pitcher to a blister, because that Sanchez thing last season was just a nightmare.
Last season and this season.
Yeah. Well, it's not even a blister anymore.
Yeah.
He's pitching, I believe it's tonight for Dunedin.
Great.
So he'll be back 2 weeks. He'll probably make 2 or 3 rehab starts. He might do one in Dunedin, maybe move up to a AA or AAA to make another start. And then we'll see him back before the end of the month. So at least we'll see a month of Sanchez. Please God, a month of Sanchez.
Our resident Marcus Stroman hater, Patrick Marsh, what do you think? 2 good starts from Stroman this week. Is that enough for you to get off your hate bandwagon for him?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the frustration that I have with Stroman is the stuff that he says on social media. And since I stopped following him on social media, I feel a little bit better about it.
Is your life happier?
I don't have
now?
that, like, what's that?
Is your life happier now?
It is, yeah.
Yeah,
and I
it
mean,
Since
the
he
thing is,
started
like,
to unfollow him, he started to play better.
Yeah. Coincidence?
yeah, exactly.
Patrick,
I think actually
unfollow
I was the
everyone on
problem.
Instagram right now.
Oh man.
I don't want to look at his social media stuff because it's just gonna make me mad. But like the minute I stopped watching and reading all that crap, he started pitching better. Like what was he? He was 0-7, and now what is he? Like 5-8,
Something like
I
that,
think
yeah.
so.
something like that. Like holy crap, he's definitely bounced back in a big way. And I could see like maybe the Shapiro and Atkins might consider moving him. He's 4-8, by the way.
No.
Not that it matters, but like I could see him like he's recouped some of his value if they wanted to go in that direction. I hope to God they don't, because this team is just as desperate for young, talented pitchers as it ever has been.
Right.
So I'm back on the Stroman bandwagon. I'm not going to be tooting the horn very hard, but he's definitely done more this year than I feel like Sanchez has done, although I still like him more.
I still love me some AA Ron.
Obviously, Marcus Stroman listens to the podcast, and it lit a fire under him. So,
Yeah.
hey,
Height
Marcus, how's it
doesn't
going,
measure
buddy?
heart.
Send me your shirt, man. Appreciate it. Let's talk about the big debuts from Danny Jansen and Sean Reid-Foley. Even though the Jays lost,
Man, I was so excited for this.
I don't think anyone cared that the Jays lost this game because Danny Jansen looked great at the plate.
kid.
Sean Reid-Foley, he did allow 6 hits and 3 walks, but it was his first start. And when you throw in the factor that it is his first start, he looked pretty good. Looked like he belonged on the mound out there.
got us
Danny
some jams,
Jansen
yeah.
also defensively looked really, really good. I thought there would be a little bit of a downgrade from Russell Martin behind the plate to Danny Jansen behind the plate, because Russell Martin's such a vet and he knows all the
Yeah.
pitchers. But then I realized he's catching for Sean Reid-Foley, who he's been catching for, the past couple of years now, working in the minors.
Yeah.
Patrick, what did you think of Jansen and Reid-Foley's debuts, if you will?
Danny Jansen, that was one of my favorite debuts I've ever seen of a Jay. Before I tuned out, which was after Foley got the yank, he already had a hit, and I watched him gun down that guy from second. It was a thing of beauty. It was like watching like a young Russell Martin, descend from the heavens and land on the diamond
With
and just
majestic
say,
goggles.
I'm going to
Yeah.
start throwing people out. It was just great.
Yeah.
Sean Reid-Foley, to be honest with you guys, I might be a little too critical here. I was kind of disappointed because watching those first 2 innings, he had like 5 or 6 fly balls that made it to the warning track. And that's kind of a bad sign in Kaufman because that's not really a hitter's park.
Mm-hmm.
If that had happened at home, I feel like it would have been like 10 or 11-1 by the 5th or 6th
Yeah,
inning.
good
And that
point.
was kind of scary.
Yeah.
But he didn't look too much out of place. He definitely did some smart stuff. He induced a pop-up while the bases were loaded in the infield, and then he managed to get the double play. So he pitched for like a light contact, and the defense saved his ass. But he did a couple smart things out there. and it was kind of cool to see Daddy Martin over at third kind of come over anytime he was in trouble and just kind of talk him down a little bit.
Justin, your boy, Sean Reid-Foley.
I was so pumped. I had to umpire a doubleheader last night, so I didn't get to watch any of it. I listened to a bit on the radio between games, and Patrick kept me updated on what my boy SRF did. I was pretty excited. The cool stat here that we saw on Twitter yesterday was that it was the first American League battery to debut together since 1967. So pretty cool. It had been 51 years since a pitcher and catcher had made their debuts on the same day. And that's pretty cool. I'm hoping we get to watch the game tonight without rain because Baraki's pitching and Jansen's going to catch. So two best friends that anyone could have are going to be playing together.
I screwed up on my morning show today.
I was livid.
I said that Sean Reid-Foley and Danny Jansen are best friends when really it's Baraki and Sean Reid-Foley, correct?
Yeah.
Well, because it's 3:45 in the morning. I'm scrolling through Twitter and I see like this, like one of those like images where it quotes.
Yeah.
And then like, oh, I thought that's like Reid-Foley and Jansen because they're being called up together today. It's like, oh, okay, no, it was Baraki and them. Mm-hmm. It's 3:30 in the morning. Give me a
I know. I came into the station this morning, and the first thing I did was open that studio door and say, "Clayton, you messed up."
Hey, you know what? Maybe they are best friends. You never know.
I'm sure they are good friends.
Maybe Dan.
Oh, they're all very tight. I think
best friends.
Maybe Sean Reid-Foley and Ryan is just lying to Ryan Baraki and just saying like, "Oh, I'm just being best friends for you because you have a pool in your backyard or whatever." You know, like you never know. Let's give Justin some credit here because he called 2 wins for the Jays this week. So congratulations, Justin. Let's hear some predictions for this week, though. We got 3 more at KC. Then we're taking on the Yankees. 6 games. How do you guys think we're going to do?
Oh, boy. We're gonna win. We're gonna win the game that Baraki pitches, whether or not it's tonight or it's a doubleheader at some point in this series. God, Stroman's gonna pitch against the Yankees in New York, which he loves. We're gonna win that game. If Luis Severino starts a game for the Yankees, we're going to win because he has been terrible lately. I'm gonna say we're gonna win half these 6 games.
We'll go 3-3.
Yeah.
All right, Patrick.
No, I'm gonna say that we're gonna do even better. I think Show Rucky is gonna get us a win for sure. Whether the game is played today or tomorrow, either way, Baraki will be a win. Lock it in. I'm gonna say we do get the win against Stroman, but I say we sweep the Yankees just because I hate the Yankees and I want to talk mad shit about them. So I'm going to say we're going to get a win off of Kansas City tonight if the game happens. If not, we'll get it tomorrow off Baraki's start, and then we're going to sweep the Yankees in the Yankee Stadium. Something for us to brag about next week.
Man, I hope you are right, good sir.
You're not, though. We're going 1-5 this week. We'll get a pity win against Kansas City.
I'm looking ahead right now. Yeah. That third game against the Yankees, Baraki versus J. Happ.
Ooh, that should be a fun one to watch.
11:05 on Sunday.
I just don't think we're going to beat the Yankees at all this week. The Yankees are just like the Sox. They're extremely good. They're a lot better than us. And plus, again, we're going with the youth movement now. Yep. The youth movement versus a team like the Yankees. Yeah, that's going to be a big eye-opener.
It's going to be fun.
For a bunch of players on that team. That was the week that was. That was a look ahead at the week that's going to be. Let's get to the roundtable, shall we? Today we're talking about players from other teams that we love and hate, because if we talk about players that we love and hate from the Jays, we'll be here for the next 3 hours, especially on the hate list.
Oh, man, the hate list.
I was so ready to just rip Josh Towers a new one, but it's for other teams, though. I looked ahead at your guys' list, and I'm not going to lie. Your guys' hate lists are very, very good. We're going to start with Patrick, though. Patrick, your love list, whenever you're ready.
Yeah, so how about this time, like when we're doing this, like we'll do each one by one, and then we'll just be like yay or nay as far as how we feel about them.
Got it.
What do you guys think?
I like it.
Love it.
Okay. We'll start off with Frank Thomas. For me, I loved watching the big hurt bat. He was just so powerful and dominant. I had a book when I was a kid. It was just this little crappy thing you'd get at those like Scholastic book fairs. And I think it was 2 halves. One was Greg Maddux and the other was Frank Thomas. And I read them like 100 times. I just couldn't get enough of Frank Thomas. And I always wanted him to play in Toronto. Unfortunately, when he did make it to the Jays, he just was not great.
He was old.
but he had a hell of a long career.
For sure.
He lasted close to 20 years, and he was very committed to keeping baseball drug-free. I think he was the only player who was willing to be interviewed for the Mitchell Report.
I think you're right. Yeah.
And that did a lot for me as far as making him like a fan favorite. He hit 521 home runs and 0 PEDs. Loved him.
That's great. Yeah.
That's a big yay for me. I love the Big Hurt.
Huge yay.
I remember him for the White Sox. He was just, first of all, he's a monster. His traps were the size of my face. He was such an intimidating figure when he went to the plate, and when he hit a bomb, you knew it was gone. And that's what I love most about baseball. Those players, Jose Batista's one, Edwin's one, where you know they hit a home run. Some guys you're like, is that a deep fly ball or is that a home run? With Frank Thomas, you knew if it was a home run or not.
Put a big hurt in that ball. That's for damn sure. Yeah.
All right, Patrick.
You guys remember?
Justin?
Well, you're probably too young to remember this, but 93 and 94, he won back-to-back MVPs. In 94, he batted .353.
Wow.
This guy, he was a beast. Friggin' machine. Yeah, he was great. Another guy that's on my list is pretty much an automatic on everybody's list ever, and that's Ken Griffey Jr. Even though he was marketed to the extreme by MLB, Griffey was another drug-free guy who was also a big bopper, who was super popular. I've never seen a guy who had a more perfect swing at the plate than Ken Griffey Jr.
Yeah, I could watch
beautiful.
I could watch videos of his swing all day.
It was just so smooth.
It was so crisp, and I can just remember like so many of his bombs looked the exact same, where it was just this perfect like swing, a little bit of like an uppercut to it, and he would just crank the ball out. And he was never one of those guys. He wasn't Frank Thomas, who was like built to pick up cement trucks. He was, kind of slender, but he had such a perfect swing and just great eyes and great hands. He could do it all. He was great in the outfield. I didn't know this, but when he turned 18 years old, he actually tried to end his life because of all the pressure from baseball scouts and coaches. And then he had a lot of pressure at home because his dad was obviously an MLB superstar.
He played with his dad.
And he actually stated that after that happened, that it brought him and his father a lot closer together. So I thought that was a really cool story. I have probably remembered and forgotten that story a million times, but I think it's kind of a cool story for fans who don't know that Ken Griffey Jr. dealt with those types of issues the same way anybody else could.
Exactly.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, that's a big yay from me, especially when Griffey hit low balls. Like when the ball was down in the zone, it wasn't a strike. That's when Griffey loved it the most because his swing was just built for low pitches.
Yeah, he had that kind of like that Vladimir Guerrero-esque uppercut. Just hit anything.
All right, 2 yays. Let's see if we can go 3 for 3 here, bud.
All right, so from my third love on the list, I kind of cheated a little bit. It's kind of like a four-way between Greg Maddux, Tom Glavine, John Smoltz, and I even threw in Kevin Millwood because, I don't know, he's kind of like the Ringo of the Atlanta Braves rotation back then. Those guys were so dominant. I loved watching them. Tom Glavine will always be special to me because he was a lefty, and when I was like 10 or 11, I wore an Atlanta Braves hat. I know, traitor, because I love Tom Glavine. I wanted to pitch like Tom Glavine. I wanted to throw tons of junk balls and get people to strike out on stupid pitches. I would always pretend that I was him on the mound, and I just remember all those guys. They won like 8, 9 Cy Youngs in a row.
Something crazy, yeah.
Or something like that. It was just ridiculous. They were so good.
I didn't know we can go with 4 extra players, but that's okay. I guess we'll count it.
So Patrick's going I guess 6 for 3.
Yeah, that's cool, man. Just
right,
break the
Patrick,
rules. That's awesome.
fine.
Yeah, no, that's
Whatever.
fine. Let's go with again. You went 3 for 3. I agree. That Braves rotation. The only thing that really rivals it was the A's rotation in the mid 2000s with Zito, Mulder, Rich Harden was the Ringo of that group, and it's like Rich Harden was chucking gas.
When
back
Barry
then,
Zito
too.
was good, he was lights out.
He was very lights out. Tim Hudson too was just like you forget about Tim Hudson in that because I mean with Zito and Mulder, and you could argue that Hudson had a better career than Mulder after that, but Mark Mulder at that time, my God, was he lights out. It is time for Justin's love list.
I gotta start with my ultimate crush, Mike Trout.
Okay.
He's the best player in baseball right now, and maybe the best player that I've seen in my lifetime in terms of just like complete skill. He's put up Hall of Fame numbers every year. He's honestly gotten better every single season, and for a guy who's just turned 26 this year to still be getting better is crazy. He hasn't peaked yet, which is something. Like we haven't seen Mike Trout have a down year. We saw him have an injury a couple seasons ago, but I mean he came right back and was even better than ever before. And he's a good guy. I think that's the most important thing is we see him. He likes to play catch with like a young fan before the game in the stands kind of thing. He likes to do that kind of thing, and that's the kind of trait that really helps baseball like be endeared to fans. It's like guys who are going to spend time with the fans. We've seen Stroman a couple times recently on videos take young fans like into the clubhouse and stuff like that. That's pretty cool. So I have a lot of respect for guys who do that. Another guy on my list. Oh, I guess you're gonna give me a yay for Mike Trout. Like, let's be honest, Mike Trout's just a likable guy.
Well, I don't know.
Come on,
guys.
Clayton.
Well, I don't know if that's a yay. I mean, has he really proved himself? I don't know. Yeah, of course.
I went with like Patrick did a lot of guys who aren't playing anymore. Whereas all three of mine are current, which I don't know. That's just kind of how I felt. Jose Altuve is my second guy.
Interesting.
Yeah.
He signed as a 16-year-old. He's 5'6". He's the shortest active player in baseball right now. He reminds me of Marty St. Louis from the NHL. Just that short guy who people's like, no, he can't do it. And as a 6'5" guy, like I've always had height in every sport I've ever played, and it's seen as an advantage. But Altuve's turned his lack of an advantage into something incredible. So the day he showed up. He's from Venezuela, so he signed as an international free agent. The day he showed up at the Houston Astros like tryout camp, they sent him home because they didn't believe he was actually 16. So he wasn't going to go back, but his dad basically forced him to go back. He brought his birth certificate, and one of the coaches for the Astros said, "Well, can you play?" And he said, "Let me show you." And he showed them, and they signed him to like a $15,000 contract as a 16-year-old out of Venezuela. And look at him now. He's been a 6-time All-Star. He's a World Series champion, an MVP. He's won, I think, 3 or 4 Gold Gloves. He's won a couple of Hank Aaron Awards as the best batter as voted by the players. Like, the dude is incredible. He's a spark plug. And guys, like, when Justin Verlander was traded to Houston, he said that Altuve was one of the first guys who called him to, like, welcome him to the team. Like, people want to go play in Houston because of Jose Altuve. And for a guy who almost didn't show up for the second day of camp as a 16-year-old. That's pretty cool. What do you guys think about that one?
Sure. Yes. I mean, obviously, 6-time All-Star.
Yeah.
He's great.
And
I
a
would
good
say
guy.
yay.
And then I'm going with my boy, the deserved NL Cy Young winner this season, Jacob deGrom, playing on an absolute dumpster fire of a team with the Mets. He's more of a wasted talent than Mike Trout is this season, and that's saying something.
Yeah. Because the Mets are bad.
The Mets are
worse
very,
than
very,
Anaheim.
very bad.
Yeah.
They have Jose Bautista in the outfield. They're really bad. Let's just say that. So right now he's 7-7 in the old win-loss record. So everyone's like, oh, he doesn't even have 10 wins yet. But he has a 1.81 ERA.
Yeah.
He's on pace to post like the first sub-2 ERA in like the last 20 years or something like that. He's striking out a ton of people. Doesn't walk anybody. I want him to get traded so bad just so he can get the hell out of there. Like, he doesn't deserve what he's going through right now.
Trade him to us. We'll take him.
Well, we'll have to give up everything for him, though.
That's
which is the
fine.
problem. I don't want to give up what we have. We don't necessarily need Jacob deGrom now. He's 30 years old too. Little known fact.
He's already 30?
Yeah.
Seems like he just got into the league.
He's only been in the league for, I think this is his 4th full season. He was a late developer.
Yeah, that's true.
He was drafted in 2010, so I mean it took him 4 years to get to the show, which is fair. But he was he was drafted at 22, so he was a late draft because he stayed in college.
All right, you get 3 yays there because Jacob deGrom. Are you going to disagree with any of those, Patrick, or no?
No, those are 3 great choices, and I like the fact that your list has all guys who are currently playing, while mine had all guys that are long since retired. Jacob deGrom might be the best player out of these 3 in the long term. I do like Mike Trout a lot, and I think he already has a Hall of Fame career, but Jacob deGrom is doing something right now that, like you said, no pitcher has done in like 20 years. That's pretty incredible.
I went Patrick Trout, and I took 3 guys that are no longer playing, and mine isn't like guys who I've emotionally attached to
Right.
or have an emotional attachment to. It's more for watching.
Right, sure.
These are guys that I love to watch, and those are the guys that I love the most. Number one, Randy Jansen. I loved watching the big unit pitch. It's kind of like Chris Sale now,
Yeah.
but better.
That
I don't know
crossfire
why,
lefty,
but
yeah.
Chris Sale bugs me.
He's so lanky.
He was close to being on my hate list because ever since he ripped up the uniforms and he just thinks he's better than everyone else. That's the thing about Chris Sale. He just thinks that he's better than everyone. Randy Jansen, I mean, he knows he's good, but he doesn't seem like one of those guys who would be a bad guy in the clubhouse.
Yeah.
Like, you could go for a couple beers with Randy Jansen
killed a
and have a
bird.
good time. Again, he killed that bird. That's an all-time clip. He was on the Simpsons once, selling the big left-handed bears, you know?
Yeah.
Like, he seems like such a good guy, and I know I just said that it's not about emotional attachment, but maybe a little bit. I just loved watching him pitch for the Diamondbacks back in the day. Like, man, did that guy absolutely chuck it. And, like, it wasn't even close. And nowadays with batters, they can sometimes figure Chris Sale out. But back in the day when they didn't have the video technology and stuff like that, batters were just clueless up there. Speaking of batters being clueless, number 2 on my list, Pedro Martinez.
Whoa. Are we going to give him 2 yays? I'm going to give
If
him
you
a
guys
yay.
don't yay Randy Jansen, I'll be mad.
I know Patrick has some strong feelings about the Diamondbacks.
I have very strong negative opinions about the Diamondbacks, but Randy Johnson is the light in the dark.
Mhm.
Like, for me, I could talk about the big unit in Seattle for like 25 podcasts in a row and not get tired of talking about him.
Mm-hmm.
He's just a strikeout machine. I never got to see Nolan Ryan play, but I imagine people have similar feelings about Nolan Ryan the same way that, you know, our generation does about Randy Johnson.
It's probably fair.
He was just spectacular.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like, just his pitch, he was so overpowering. That's the best way to describe him.
Cool. Well, 2 yays, I guess.
Number 2 on my list,
Yep.
kind of the same way, Pedro Martinez. I had never seen a pitcher dominate like Pedro Martinez since Randy Jansen. And
Right.
Pedro didn't have the frame that Randy Johnson had. He didn't have the sidearm delivery, didn't have the heat. Well, he did have the heat because, man, Pedro's stuff was filthy. And
Electric.
the thing I loved about Pedro is the bigger the game, the better he played.
Yeah.
Like those Red Sox days, man, did he have some good starts for them. Like in the clutch, must-win games. Pedro Martinez came to play. The Don Zimmer thing, of course, that was really, really funny because I hated Don Zimmer so much. Oh, he's such a marshmallow.
Fat white guy.
And you guys might not remember this, but I watched the show Popular Mechanics for Kids back in the day. Jay Baruchel got his start on PMK with Alicia Cuthbert. They would talk about science stuff.
Cuthbert.
And Jay Baruchel went to the Expos training camp, I believe, or maybe it was during the season. I can't remember. But he and Pedro Martinez had this little bit together. It was Jay Baruchel and Pedro Martinez. It was like his rookie year. He went to the trainer room and showed how he stretched and put like A535 on his arm and stuff like that. And Pedro was such a boss during the whole time. Could barely speak English at the time, but like whatever. I just like the fact that Pedro Martinez was such a boss. And again, I remember watching him on that TV episode of PMK where I was like, man, this guy's going to be good. And that's when he was pitching for the Expos when no one really knew who he was.
Right.
Goes to Boston, and then, I mean, the rest is history after
How
that.
about a little side shout out to the Expos for bringing up all these young Dominican kids?
Yeah.
With Bartolo, Vladdy, and Pedro. Like
Moises Alou.
They got a great history of
Yeah.
that franchise had a great history of bringing those guys up. So kudos to them.
Pedro, yay, nay?
Yay from the perspective that you said, nay from the perspective of watching him kill the Jays.
He did kill the Jays, I know, but
I'm going to give him a yay anyway.
those were the days where
regardless.
everyone was killing the Jays, so it didn't really
that's
matter.
true. Yeah, good point.
He was one of the best pitchers ever in baseball. Like, I'm not even over exaggerating. Every pitch that he had was like
filthy.
You know how like they grade pitchers on having they're like a 2-pitch pitcher. Pedro Martinez had a great fastball, a great curveball, a great cutter, and a great circle changeup. Maybe one of the best ever. The guy had immaculate control. He could do whatever he wanted with that ball. And when he had his fastball rolling, oh my God, he was unstoppable.
He was kind of like the Aaron Rodgers of Major League Baseball. His arm was a toy. He can put the ball wherever he wanted.
Yeah.
He's just pinpoint accuracy, and he had absolute heat. Last on my list, and we don't need to go too deep into this one, Vladdy.
Oh yeah.
I loved watching Vladdy for the Expos because I loved the Jays growing up. I always watched the Jays, but I remember watching the Expos on the Score once in a while too.
Yeah.
And when they would have 3,000 people at the Big O or whatever, and I just felt so bad for the Score because, I mean, Sportsnet and TSN and CBC had the Jays and the Score, which I think was Headline Sports at that time or something like that. They had the Expos. And I almost gave them pity watches because I was like, oh, man, like, I feel bad.
And you knew that most of the watchers watching the Expos game were watching RDS.
Exactly.
It was in the French, right?
And I watched and I started to watch Vladdy, and just like his style. No one had Vladdy's style. His just like 75-year-old knees and his hose of an arm in the outfield that caught everyone off guard, and the fact he could hit a home run on any pitch. Vladdy, if you guys again, if you don't yay that, I'll be really mad. So
love it. Yeah, that's a big yay.
Weren't Vladdy and Pedro teammates?
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, they were.
Vladdy moved in with
very
Pedro
briefly
when he came up to
with Dustin Hermanson.
Yeah.
God, was he
So,
bad?
Oh man,
if you watched that little documentary that Sportsnet did on Junior, the namesake, they touched on how when Vladdy came up to Montreal, Pedro kind of felt like because Vladdy lived with his mom, his family in the Dominican, so Pedro kind of like took Vladdy in, and then later on his mom came up to live with him and took the team food and all this stuff like that. So it was pretty cool to see how Pedro right away kind of was like, yeah, I can take this kid in, and they did that. So that's pretty cool too. Yeah.
All right, let's get to the hate list here. Patrick, you bat lead off here.
Yeah.
And I got to say, your hate list, it's going to cause a discussion here. So whenever you're ready.
Well, one more thing before we stop talking about the Expos, probably forever, sadly. In Pedro Martinez's last season with the Expos, he had a 1.90 ERA. So this goes back to what we were talking about with Jacob deGrom. It was like a sub-2 ERA.
Yeah.
Pedro did it 21 years ago. So there you go. This hate list did not take long for me to write. I think I wrote it in about 2 minutes.
Yeah, it was up there pretty quick this morning.
Yeah, it was very easy. They're in no particular order. Derek Jeter was just a Jays killer, and he always struck me as this really, like, he just seemed so smug. I just didn't like Derek Jeter. I acknowledge he was great on the field, but I was really jealous of the fact that we had a shortstop that was that dominant on the field. But still, he also dated Madonna, I think. So
yeah, he did. He dated everyone in New York.
So many supermodels.
Yeah.
And actresses and singers, and oh my God, yeah.
Yeah, I just don't like Derek Jeter. I don't want to ever have to praise Derek Jeter again in my life. He was a Jays killer, man. I just remember watching all those games against the Yankees when he was still playing, and it was just like, oh my God, we're probably going to lose because of Derek Jeter.
I'm going to have to nail you on this one because Derek Jeter, his highlight tape, like his cool highlights, not just like crazy diving catches and jumping in the air throws. That one where he dove into the stands.
That's cool.
That's unreal. The play in Oakland where he ran to cut it off.
Yeah.
I mean that won them the series right there, you know. I have mad respect for Derek Jeter. Again, he is a Jays killer.
Yeah.
But have you seen the top 100 NFL players of all time? How Derek Jeter does the intro for Tom Brady?
No, I haven't seen that.
They made Derek Jeter do it because, like, when you think of a champion in baseball, you think of Derek Jeter. When you think of a champion in football, you think of Tom Brady. I can't hate a guy who, again, no real off-the-field controversy for him.
No.
Other than giving girls that he had sex with a goodie bag afterwards. Have you guys heard that
Yeah,
story?
I've heard that story.
Yeah, that's a
Oh my
crazy story.
God, that's
Boss move.
gross.
Yeah.
Boss move.
Thanks for coming out.
Yeah, thanks. Here's a goodie bag. Here's a signed ball. Apparently, he would give them a signed Derek Jeter ball.
Yeah,
Like,
that's pretty cool. I mean,
pretty cool, pretty greasy at the same time. But I don't know. I always had a soft spot for Derek Jeter just because, like, again, he played for the Yankees. I hated the Yankees. But man, there's just something about Derek Jeter.
I'm not going to get too deep into my Derek Jeter feelings, but he wasn't a great defensive shortstop.
All right, well, cool.
Just statistically,
I'm not gonna start debating
he
with
made
you.
some in his younger years. He did make like that Oakland play in the playoffs is one of the cooler plays, and that's a hustle play. Right there. Like, that's just a good that's a baseball IQ play. Derek Jeter might not have been the best defensive player, but he had some of the best baseball IQ ever. He got himself in the right spot to make plays.
He's just such a baseball guy.
Yeah, and I mean I respect the guy a lot for getting drafted by a team and sticking with them for his whole career. That's pretty cool. Like, I respect guys who do that, have that loyalty. To be fair, it's pretty easy to stay with the Yankees when they're paying you that much and winning so many World Series as they did. And I mean, you had guys like Posada and Rivera and Pettit around you, and Clemens growing in those years. Like, it was pretty easy to
Bernie
stay.
Williams,
Bernie
the center,
Williams.
yeah.
It was pretty easy for him to not leave.
Mm-hmm.
So, but I'll give you a yay because I think Derek Jeter's a total boss. His wife is a smoke show, so we'll give him that.
All right, number 2, Patrick.
That's a lame reason to give him
Hey,
a yay.
I'm a petty man. What can I say?
Jesus. All right, number 2 on this list is Big Papi, David Ortiz. Probably one of the most overrated players ever. I know, like, I can feel all of Boston starting to march towards Halifax to burn it to the ground. Big Papi, come on. His numbers are a bit inflated from playing in Boston. If he had played in a hitter's park, he would have been Kendrys Morales at best. And he had zero ability on the diamond to do anything. He was just a DH.
Yeah. It goes back to that discussion we had a couple weeks ago about, dude, like Edgar Martinez getting into the Hall of Fame. Does he deserve to as a DH kind of thing? Yeah.
But Edgar doesn't have like the moments that David Ortiz has.
Yeah.
And you guys are right. Again, his ability subpar at best, especially on the field. Hitting wise, again, basically just hit for power. Could not hit opposite field if his life depended on it. But the fact that he had all that going against him, and he still had all of these clutch moments.
Yeah.
I love guys like that who are pretty mediocre, but have these moments where they are just heroes. I kind of like that. I don't know why. I have a soft spot for Papi.
Why else do you hate him, Patrick?
That's it, man.
That's it?
I mean, he played for Boston, and he pounded the crap out of the Jays for,
yes, he did.
The better part of 2 decades.
Even
but
when
I
he was
mean,
with the Twins, too,
Yeah.
he pounded the Jays.
So if I agree with you here on the hate list, do I give him a nay? Is that the thing we're doing? Because
No, it's a yay to the agreement. Yay means agree. Nay means
wow,
disagree.
Listen to the rules, Justin.
I'm giving him a yay because I'm with you, Patrick. I think I don't like DHs. I think they suck.
I mean, I like Edgar Martinez, but I don't like David Ortiz for the exact same reasons I dislike.
I would say no.
Yeah, I'm a total hypocrite here. Come on. He played in Boston.
Yeah.
He played with the Green Monster. It's not that hard to hit home runs in that stadium, and he was, an extreme pull hitter. He wasn't going to hit opposite field, so he popped 20, 25 home runs over the Green Monster every year.
He never hit it. Was he that side of the plate though? I don't remember him hitting a lot of home runs over the Green Monster.
Didn't he bat right?
He was a left-handed batter.
I think he was a left-handed batter. He hit more to that pesky pole or whatever it's called.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
But still, which is really easy to hit home
runs.
runs because the fence is super low over there, and if you pull it well enough, it's going to be gone. I just have to disagree. You're 0 for 2 with me because, again, he's just a baseball guy. I can't hate a baseball guy. Even though we can't field, which is like a big part of baseball. But still, let's see if you can get one for me here, Patrick.
Number 3 on my list is Andy Pettit. He is the master of the cut fastball. He was so dominant for so long on the mound. Anytime Andy Pettit was on the mound against the Jays, I just figured I might as well shut the game off because we're going to lose this one. Andy Pettit was such a force that it's kind of like a begrudging respect. Like I respect him, but I also hate him because he was a Yankee. And there's just something, I don't know, there's like a visceral feeling inside of me when I think of Andy Pettit.
I'm going to agree with you. I hated watching Andy Pettit pitch against the Jays. He was so dominant out there, but he also just, again, looked so cocky while doing it too. Mm-hmm. Like he knew he was pitching well when he was on, and I just hated that. His little smirk when he just knew he was in the zone or I couldn't take Andy Pettit. So I'll give you the yay there. There, you got one from me, okay, Patrick?
Yeah, big yay for me as well.
Exactly. And then I also put as just like I cheated again where I had a fourth thing. Literally
cool.
anyone ever caught on PEDs.
Oh, yeah. That's fair.
Yeah.
It's ironic that you threw the cheaters on this list when you cheated on this list.
Yeah.
Very interesting, bud. Very interesting. Let's go to your hate list, Justin, here. What are your 3?
I'm going to start it off with 2 simple words. Rougned Odor.
Yeah, that doesn't need explaining. We all hate that guy.
Yeah, that's all I'm going to say.
That guy is scum.
All right. Next up on my list, Alex Rodriguez. tying into Patrick's cheater
man.
note here with the old. Oh yeah, I didn't use drugs. Oh, just kidding. I used drugs when I was in Texas from 2001, 2003. Oh, by the way, just kidding. I'm in this other report that says I used steroids in New York too. Haha, I fooled you. I'm really sorry, guys. Misses 211 games, comes back, is complete dog shit, and then fades into obscurity.
Yeah.
Is he on ESPN?
He's doing Sunday Night Baseball.
Yeah, and I've heard that he's okay. I don't watch Sunday Night Baseball because I usually have better things to do, like sleep on Sunday nights. And I couldn't care less to watch Alex Rodriguez or do the color commentary on a game. And it's always Yankees and Red Sox on Sunday anyway, so really who cares again. I got no patience for a guy who lies multiple times. Yeah.
And when he yelled mine, was it behind Howie Clark? I don't know if it was Howie Clark.
Who was playing third base?
I want to say Howie Clark for some reason.
It was somebody really random.
Yeah, that's why I want to go with Howie Clark, like the most random J of all time.
It's like was it not Koski or?
I can't remember, but I know that was such a dickbag move on him to do that.
Yelling mine on the base paths.
And like he tried to deny it afterwards.
And
it was
clearly like camera footage of him yelling. It's like, you're such a dumbass, Alex Rodriguez.
That's the A for me. What about you, Patrick?
Yeah, well, I mean, he was a cheater, so he automatically goes on my shit list now and forever. And you're right, it was Howie Clark. His reaction, I'm watching the clip right now without sound, and the look on his face is like, I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit.
Exactly.
Screw him.
Yeah, he's they had no sportsmanship on the field, and like
no sportsmanship. He's a cheater. He lied. I hope he doesn't get. Or is he already in the Hall of Fame? Is it too late?
He's not eligible yet. He hasn't been 5 years.
I hope he gets locked out of the Hall of Fame the same way that they've locked out Barry Bonds.
He won't get in right away.
Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa. Yeah. It's just like what a true ass clown this guy was.
He is the definition of a douche. I kind of went like the complete opposite of my love list. So I picked a bunch of good guys. And my hate list is just like a bunch of my last one here, Brett Gardner. I hate Brett Gardner just for the sole reason that he's like the toughest guy to get out. Whenever the Jays play the Yankees, like we just can't get Brett Gardner out.
Yeah,
and he plays hard. He just looks like a guy who would play for the Yankees. He just kind of like he has like the dip in,
Yankee vibe,
just like that bald head, just like grizzled old man kind of look that the Yankees always seem to have on their team. And I mean, he's a speedy little dude. He plays left field. Like he's a pest. He's like the Sean Avery of MLB. He's just annoying.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
You just can't.
Great comparison.
You can't get rid of the guy. Yeah. And it's like he's just always on base. He's always scoring runs. Yeah, he's an antagonist. And I mean, good for him for kind of being a spark plug for that Yankee offense for as long as he has been. Man, and he's a thorn in the side of whoever they play. So I got to give him a hate just for that.
And that gets a yay for me.
A respectful hate.
I don't hate Brett Gardner at all.
Yeah.
I actually like his speed around the base paths, and there's always got to be somebody on a rival team that you can kind of focus in on as being like that pesky player. And my begrudging respect for Brett Gardner doesn't put him in the hate category for me, so I'm actually going to say nay.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Respectful yay or respectful nay or non-respectful nay?
I have a lot of respect for Brett Gardner. There's nothing about him that makes me like dislike him. I think he owns like a gigantic farm too, and that's kind of cool too. Because if I were a millionaire, I would totally just buy a farm, and every time the season was over, I'd go hang out in the farm until it was time to go back and play ball.
Yeah, classic Maritimer over here. I could just run a farm.
I could just listen to you say farm all day. I like that little Maritimes accent comes out.
Yeah, it's not that easy to just run a farm, guys.
Yeah, Patrick.
Yeah, like.
No, I just mean I would want to hang out on the farm. I wouldn't do anything. Maybe I'd build a diamond in the middle of my cornfield. I don't know.
That'd be like us going, oh yeah, I just want to go to the Maritimes, just be a fisherman.
Just be a lobster fisherman.
Casual fisherman,
Get some lobster, yeah.
Go ahead, guys. Eat lobster.
I'll keep mine short here because we're way over. Okay. But mine's kind of funny. Curt Schilling.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I fucking hate Curt Schilling.
That's a huge yay.
Like, nice video game company, man. You completely ran that thing into the ground. Great retirement plan. Oh, man. And then the bloody sock thing. Yeah, cool. You have a cut on your ankle. Congrats.
Yeah.
Good for you. Jason Giambi. I did not like Jason Giambi because he looked like the bad guy from Rookie of the Year.
And also, he kind of reminded me of like the bad guy from Major League, except the guy from Major League had facial hair.
And
He's
they
just
both
like that,
look the same.
the big bad Yankee.
Yeah, big, huge, on steroids kind of guy who hits a lot of bombs. Like, I just did not like Jason Giambi for that reason. And this last one's going to throw you guys off. And you guys probably forgot about this guy. Mark Pryor.
Ooh.
See, Mark Pryor was a great guy, and he was a great pitcher. I hate him for the fact that he could have been one of the greats.
Letdown.
He could have been one of the greats, and he was a huge letdown. Him and Kerry Wood for the Cubs back in the day. Holy shit, were they electric
He's like
together.
the Rick Astley of MLB.
I loved watching Mark Pryor. I didn't watch a lot of other teams other than the Jays, but I watched the Cubs during that time for Mark Pryor, and he just kind of let me down. And I know it was injuries, and I know that was the reason for it and stuff, but I hate Mark Pryor because I invested a lot of time into that guy. A lot of time. I would pick him in every single baseball game I owned. I became a big Mark Pryor fan, and then he just disappeared. Absolutely disappeared. Like it was like a dad who goes out for cigarettes and never comes back again. That's who Mark Pryor is in my life. He just never came back, and I hate him for it. I absolutely hate him for it. Like
I love that
him and Kerry Wood kind of too. But Kerry Wood kind of came back with Cleveland for a bit.
Yeah, they kind of
so at least again he had weekend visits with his kids. Mark Pryor just left. Went for smokes, never came back. Huge.
I wouldn't even say Mark Pryor left and never came back. It was more like he got snapped by Thanos. His career just dissolved after his time with the Cubs.
See ya.
Like, he got kidnapped by some kind of gang, and they realized he didn't have any money, so they just threw him off a bridge or something.
He just disappeared, yeah. I wonder what he's doing now.
Nothing. I bet you coaching baseball.
Is he coaching high school baseball?
Coaching high school baseball.
No, he's the bullpen coach for the Los Angeles Dodgers.
Oh, really?
What? Really? Good for him.
Yes.
Hey, Mark Pryor is still in the game.
Good
See,
for him.
we don't get any Dodgers coverage up here, so.
He just started it this year, the bullpen, you guys probably, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but their bullpen has been a disaster this year because they keep getting hurt.
Oh, yeah.
Like even John Expert, who we just traded there, is injured. He's out. Yeah.
That's what you get for leaving us all, Mark Pryor. That's what you get. That's it. That's all for episode 11 of Bat Flips and Maple Dips. I probably should have said this off the start, but we're on Facebook. Just look up Bat Flips Maple Dips on Twitter, BFMD Podcast, SoundCloud, Spotify, iTunes, Google Play Music, and...
I have one more thing to say. I want to leave us with a quote from our AAA manager, Bobby Meacham. He said this to Danny Jansen. He said, "Kid, you're going to the big leagues. I don't ever want to see you again."